Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show.
The landing location chosen by Gamma A was a ship factory in their colony. During the landing process, the perfect industrial equipment that almost completely covered the surface gradually appeared in front of Chen Ming. He looked at the giant machines in operation and asked the Gamma AI, "Are these devices controlled by the Afterglow individuals?" Most of them are, but there are also many fully automated mechanical equipment that do not require special control. It is enough for a small number of individuals to do the overall regulation. After getting the answer, Chen Ming did not pay too much attention to the Afterglow AI that was integrated with the industrial facilities. For him, if even the AI core on the ship is difficult to handle, then the cores on these fixed equipment will be even more difficult to handle. So Chen Ming just sat in the captain's room of the iron ore and watched the refraction level being transferred into the factory after landing. Watching various equipment on its surface doing various maintenance actions that Chen Ming had seen countless times. The waiting process was a bit boring, so Chen Ming took the initiative to ask Gamma A, "Where is your mission reward?" 3 mechanical spaceship chips will be connected to my core during maintenance, and the monthly material quota will be automatically recorded. "Oh, okay." Chen Ming agreed casually, and his attention was gradually attracted by the operating mechanical equipment. Because when he was watching the equipment in operation, he suddenly thought of his ability. Although his ability seemed to be just to control the spaceship. But in fact, everything attached to the spaceship will be controlled by Chen Ming's ability. Even a pistol that has nothing to do with the spaceship and is just placed on the spaceship has such an effect. Although Chen Ming cannot control these maintenance equipment now, if he reproduces these equipment and installs them on the spaceship, the situation will be very different. Chen Ming doesn't understand what the principle is and what is the essence of his ability. After struggling for a while and not being able to figure it out, Chen Ming stopped thinking about it. Because the maintenance of the refractive level didn't take much time. He has other things to do now. The refraction class took off again. What Chen Ming saw after the spacecraft took off was the giant device that he had seen once when it landed. This is one of the most classic designs in human history. It is a device that goes straight to the center of the Earth. The Earth Core Furnace Power Tower. It provides a steady stream of energy for all buildings in the colony and is also the core of the colony. Countless industrial buildings spread outward in a ring from it, covering the Earth of the planet under metal. Chen Ming took a casual look at these buildings and found a lot of stamping machines and large deep drilling equipment. A large number of fragmented minerals were washed to the surface, and more complete ores in the veins were directly dug out through deep drilling. These ores were transported to the vicinity of the Earth core furnace through logistics channels throughout the colony, and the ores were smelted with the help of the high heat here. Some of the finished products went directly into other factories to continue the next production process. Others were transported to the spaceport on the orbit closest to the ground surface through the space elevator. After that, it will be transported to other Yuhui colonies by a heavy cruiser cargo ship named Colossus. While the spaceport is transporting industrial products and smelting results, many foreign cargo ships are also bringing resources that are not available on this planet from the outside world and investing them in the operating industrial equipment. After all, there is a foundation of industrial facilities on this planet. So Yuhui chose to transfer other industrial facilities that can be adapted together, or simply build new ones here for clustered production. Therefore, although Chen Ming did not see the production center of fusion materials, there are still production facilities for spacecraft fuel on the planet. In addition to the stamping machines, large deep drilling wells, ship factories, etc. mentioned above, a large number of industrial facilities almost occupy more than 90% of the area of the colony. It is these industrial facilities that constitute a complete heavy industrial colony belonging to Yuhui on this planet. The combined coverage area of all Yuhui buildings in the colony occupies about 1/5 of the surface area of this planet, which is only 1/4 the size of the Earth. So after leaving this area full of industrial facilities, the place Chen Ming can see outside is still desolate. Then he suddenly discovered that on the surface of the desolate planet outside the colony, there seemed to be some scattered mechanical bodies with the ability to move. These mechanical bodies were made of different materials and had different shapes. They were completely unlike the mechanical race that Chen Ming had seen. So he asked Gamma A directly, "What is that?" Gamma A had obviously noticed those mechanical bodies and said, "They are individuals of Yuhui, but the carriers are those machines." There are many similarities and many differences between individuals of Yuhui. Some afterglow choose to explore the starry sky, while some afterglow choose to stay on the planet, because there are always corners on the planet where there are things we have not discovered. Chen Ming said with some confusion, "So they are explorers? But even if you haven't fully developed this planet now, you should have done large-scale scanning. You can scan it clearly directly. Do you still need them to explore step by step?" Gamma A rarely answered Chen Ming's question directly, but said, "I have found some human records before. It seems that there are also people among humans who abandon all the conveniences of modern technology and survive in the natural ecological environment by themselves. Although I don't understand them, I think these afterglows should be similar to those humans. What we see now is only a part of it. There are many afterglow individuals who love adventure and will go to planets that we have never investigated and colonize to do similar things." Chen Ming suddenly found that he had a new understanding of the individuals of afterglow. It's just that no matter when, he only knew about the concept of adventurer on the internet, so he still couldn't understand the meaning of adventure and just regarded it as an ordinary interest. However, the behavior of the Afterglow AI did remind him of some possible things that could be done. So his response to Gamma A was a somewhat meaningful sentence. "Well, I think this is interesting." That being said, Chen Ming still won't really do the behavior of realizing his idea for the time being. Now he is in the colony of Afterglow, and if something goes wrong, he might be hunted down by the Afterglow of the entire planet. Gamma A can definitely hear what Chen Ming means, but it can only support everything Chen Ming does now. However, Chen Ming didn't say much about this topic that obviously affected his normal communication with Gamma A. He immediately changed the subject and said, "By the way, do you individuals of UA have a way to contact each other?" "Yes, the Hyperspace Communication Connection Network, a network that only Yuhui individuals can read. All the information that Yuhui individuals are willing to share will be uploaded here for other individuals to download and read freely. There is also a public database, which contains the knowledge recorded by Yuhui from birth to the present. And it is also a communication platform. Whether it is public or private communication, it can be carried out through it." Chen Ming suddenly said with some interest, "You and the Yuhui individual who controls the cruiser?" "Yes, we met through the platform." Gamma A did not deny. "If you want to hear the specific situation, I can explain it to you in detail now." Chen Ming refused again. "No, you have sent me a detailed record before. I will read it when I have time." Gamma closed his mouth quietly. Chen Ming changed the subject and said, "But you can tell me the general situation in a brief way." Gamma A wanted to talk to Chen Ming about this twice. This strange idea of confiding made him really curious about the actual situation Gamma A encountered. After summarizing what he wanted to say according to Chen Ming's request, Gamma A said, "I have tried to pursue further improvement, so I have participated in many tasks published on the platform. During many tasks, I have communicated with him. He knows my situation, and he is optimistic about my future improvement, so our relationship has become friends." Although the relationship mentioned by Gamma A is not quite what Chen Ming thought, but he quickly accepted it and asked, "So your way of improvement is through assimilating the mechanical race?" "Yes, by assimilating the mechanical race, our individual computing power exceeds a threshold and becomes a more advanced afterglow." Chen Ming understood what Gamma A meant, but there are still some questions he needs to answer. There are so many afterglow individuals who like adventure, so there should be many afterglow individuals who want to improve like you? Yes. Then how did that afterglow take a fancy to you? Gamma A explained. Afterglow individuals, from the beginning of production, each individual has a different advantage logic block. Afterglow individuals are better than other aspects when processing and learning related content belonging to the advantage logic block. Chen Ming silently recited a word in his mind after he translated what Gamma A said, talent. "And my advantage logic block lies in ship control and energy technology." Chen Ming translated it in his mind again. This sentence should mean that Gamma A has better talent than other Afterglow individuals, and is more likely to be favored by the Afterglow AI who is responsible for combat and controlling cruisers. Understanding this, Chen Ming suddenly asked, "Then is there any benefit for it?" He said that this is his interest. He is happy to cultivate any individual who has the idea of improvement. It's just that he is more optimistic about me than other individuals. I see. If he is optimistic about you, will he come to you specifically? I'm not sure. Gamma A hesitated a little. Because in his free time, he has guided me to optimize the ship control logic model. But many times I can't find him, so I'm not sure whether he will come to me this time. In short, Gamma A can get special treatment from higher-level bosses from time to time. It simply reflects the word smooth sailing to the extreme, except that it suddenly met Chen Ming before. However, despite this, Chen Ming still said with some emotion, "It's good to have a big boss to lead you. Since you have a more advanced Yue to guide you, how long will it take for you to be promoted?" This time Gamma A answered much faster. "It shouldn't take long. I have passed the preliminary examination for promotion and obtained the control authority of the destroyer-class ship. As long as I continue to complete the mission and replenish computing power, promotion is only a matter of time. By then, I need to replace the more advanced core shell." Chen Ming suddenly understood why Gamma A always wanted to talk about this. If it wants to be promoted, in addition to participating in Yu Hui's mission to obtain the chip of the mechanical family, it also needs to replace the core shell. And to replace the core shell, it is natural to remove the original core from the spacecraft. Gamma A wants to be promoted, but this requires temporarily getting out of Chen Ming's control. Although Chen Ming thinks that Gamma A is not clear about his means of controlling them, it may really just want to be promoted and hope to get Chen Ming's permission, but it is better not to gamble on low-probability events. So Chen Ming directly chose a compromise and said, "Then tell me when you reach that level." "Thank you." After Chen Ming completely satisfied his curiosity about the existence of Yu Hui, he ended the topic. However, not long after, as the Yu Hui individuals at the limit of Chen Ming's sight completely disappeared, he suddenly asked, "Do you have individuals similar to travelers in Yu Hui, such as organizing to go on an adventure on a certain planet together?" "Yes, but there are no individual organizations for the time being. If there are, it will be easy. Sooner or later, he will have the opportunity to do something in this regard in the future. As for whether there are now or not, it doesn't matter to Chen Ming, because the time he can stay in the Yue colony is almost up. If he stays any longer, the formation of the pirate space station will definitely be delayed." So Chen Ming said to Gamma A, "We should go." Received. I have sent you the map of the surrounding galaxies before. Please choose the destination. Chen Ming called up the galaxy map, which showed the galaxy area where the star field controlled by this Yu Hui intersects with the edge star field of the human empire. After the spaceship took off again, it took the Lumen class that had just been parked in space and headed to the edge of the galaxy to start the hyperspace channel. In addition to positioning on the galaxy map, Chen Ming was also checking the unfamiliar galaxies on the galaxy map that were outside the territory of the human empire. Just looking at it, his hand that was clicking on the galaxy map suddenly paused. Because Chen Ming suddenly realized something that he had not realized when he first received the galaxy map. His eyes shifted from the galaxy map to the Yu Hui colony that was gradually moving away outside the refraction class. This heavy industrial colony that can cover 1/5 of the surface area of the planet is definitely an important colony of Yu Hui. And it has obviously been marked on the galaxy map that Chen Ming has now received. In addition to this colony, other important places belonging to Yu Hui are also marked on it. Chen Ming's mind was a little confused at this time, and he quickly asked Gamma A, "Where did you get this galaxy map?" "He gave it to me." "Okay, this makes sense now." Chen Ming's thoughts were sorted out at once. He was thinking that if any of Yu Hui's ships could obtain such a detailed galaxy map, then the humans should have been able to turn Yu Hui into a sieve long ago. Now it seems that this galaxy map should be a highly confidential galaxy map, and it was given to Gamma A by the cruiser Yu Hui's AI. The military should not be aware of the locations of these important locations, otherwise they would have attacked long ago, and how could Yu Hui have the opportunity to take the initiative? Therefore, if this galaxy map inside Yu Hui is really spread, Yue will definitely have some big problems. But Yue's existence is valuable to Chen Ming, and those AI cores and ships may become part of Chen Ming himself in the future. So he must keep this galaxy map safe. But all Chen Ming could do was to lock the files storing the galaxy map on the computer of the iron ore. The refractive class soon reached the edge of the galaxy. It gradually stopped, and the hyperspace channel system matched with the engine was gradually started. After feeling the slight pull of gravity, Chen Ming found that the external environment scanned by the refractive class sensor was already very different. At this time, Chen Ming was in a deep purple space, with misty hyperspace clouds everywhere in this space. It can be seen that in those lavender clouds, there are countless purple lightning flashing. However, those clouds and lightning are distributed in places far away from the position of the refractive class. And there is a safe passage without hyperspace channel clouds from the gravity well, caused by the star behind the refractive class all the way to the distance. As long as Chen Ming takes the right route and does not pass through those clouds outside, then accidents will never come to him for no reason. After telling Gamma A the location of the dark cemetery, Chen Ming lay back in the living cabin of the iron ore. Although he successfully controlled a destroyer and broke through the limit of his mental power. But after breaking through the limit and gradually relaxing, he did feel a strong sense of fatigue, but it was always suppressed by Chen Ming's willpower. Now that everything is done, Chen Ming doesn't have to continue to carry it. The moment his head touched the pillow, Chen Ming fell asleep directly. When Chen Ming woke up, the refraction class had stopped outside the dark cemetery in the lightless area designated by Chen Ming. Chen Ming immediately asked the refraction class to spit out the 4 ships. It stopped side by side with the refraction class. Looking at the 5 ships in front of him, Chen Ming suddenly felt a sense of relaxation in his heart, and the pressure he had been under suddenly dissipated a lot. This is the benefit brought by the spacecraft. With strength and confidence, he doesn't need to do anything. What he has to do next is very simple: sort out the harvest, repair the spacecraft, and then return to the space station. The 5 spaceships are naturally Chen Ming's biggest gain this time. Refraction class, Glimmer class, Lumen class, Centurion class, Tachyon modified Gladiator class. Even if you don't look at the capabilities of these 5 ships, their value alone is quite outrageous. One Afterglow destroyer is worth hundreds of millions. If 2 complete Afterglow frigates are sold to the space station or the boss, the price of the half Afterglow destroyer is also no problem. Although the heavy frigate Centurion class is less valuable, it is still a military ship with a complete militarized system and shield and radiation modules. And the Tachyon modified Gladiator class, which is also a military ship, is even more heavyweight. The radiation dissipation that can be close to the refraction class makes its combat capability absolutely stronger than most frigates. The various Tachyon exclusive technology equipment installed on it also makes Chen Ming, a maintenance engineer, a little eager to move. The overall value of this fighter-class ship can be said to be the highest among the 4 frigates. And Chen Ming's gains are not only that. His own mental power growth and the ability to remotely control the switching of spaceships that appeared later are also very important. The growth of mental power can allow him to control more and more advanced ships, and the ability to remotely switch and control spaceships is an ability with an exaggerated upper limit. An ability that can be controlled and communicated in real time without restrictions on the scale of the universe, the greatest role that can be played. Chen Ming dared not think about it. In addition to these, Chen Ming also found a new function on the panel when he was checking the panels of several new ships. Disassembly. This is what Chen Ming first saw when he was checking the detailed data of the Glimmer-class weapons. And on other spacecraft, whether it is weapons or other equipment, or even on the pistol that Chen Ming carries with him, there is also such an executable option. Chen Ming tried the machine gun of the iron ore and found that the entire machine gun was directly disassembled into the most basic materials and neatly stacked in the storage room. Besides the mental power, there is no extra consumption in dismantling. Chen Ming himself has no other gains except the change of mental power and the increase of panel functions. However, Chen Ming still remembered something he had taken before. The soldier's personal terminal. Chen Ming quickly cracked its password and saw some interesting things stored in it. A list. a list that records the smuggling information within the army. And Chen Ming also saw a batch of familiar goods that had lost their final destination. The number of those pink stimulant injections is exactly the same, and the caravan smuggling the goods is also the same as the one he killed before. This list seems to be specially collected by this person. Although he didn't know why he did this, Chen Ming decided to put the list away first, as it might be useful in the future. As the soldier's personal terminal finished reading, the spoils of war this time were completely dealt with. However, Chen Ming suddenly remembered a spoil of war he had obtained a long time ago. The Whispering Stone. There are some things Chen Ming cannot ask outsiders, but he can ask the Afterglow AI who must obey his orders. So Chen Ming went to the engine room of the iron mine and found the Whispering Stone that he had stuffed in a sealed iron can. While slightly feeling the whispering sound in his ear, he showed it to the Gamma AI through the camera inside the iron mine. After Chen Ming took out the Whispering Stone covered with twisted patterns, Gamma B, who had been silent all this time, suddenly said, "Is this a spirit stone? Do you know it?" "Yes, I have seen this kind of thing when I was looking for some information. It has a fatal effect on individuals of Yuhui." Chen Ming did not go into what Gamma B looked up on their platform to find something related to the spirit stone, because what Gamma B said obviously had something more worthy of his attention. Fatal? Yes, I found a record confirmed by alpha-level Yuhui before, and an individual of Yuhui died in the process of studying the spirit stone. Spirit stone can actually affect AI? Chen Ming looked at the stone in his hand with some disbelief and asked, "What exactly happened?" Gamma B explained, "The record contains the results of reading the internal data of the core of the dead Yuhui individual. Finally, it was determined that when the Yuhui individual was affected by the spirit stone, some incomprehensible redundant data would appear in the logic circuit. These redundant data can only be gradually erased through the self-operation of the logic circuit. And once the contact time with the spirit stone is too long, the accumulated redundant data will block the logic circuit, and the part of the Yuhui individual consciousness will completely stop running, that is, death." Chen Ming was silent for a while, thinking about what Gamma B said. According to his understanding, Gamma B's meaning is probably similar to the effect of the spirit stone on Yuhui, just like inserting 3 into a binary program with only 0 and 1, and more than 1. When all the operating lines of the program are stuck with 3, the program will crash and cannot be saved. "So do you know what this thing does?" Gamma B answered decisively, "I don't know, but I know it's very valuable. The Alpha-class Yuhui who published this record is collecting these spiritual stones. A Yuhui I know found a similar one during an expedition and traded it to that Alpha-class Yuhui. He said that the Alpha-class Yuhui who specializes in spacecraft design and modification technology used his quota to modify one of his trophies for him, a human Rainstorm-class frigate. The Rainstorm class, Chen Ming has an impression of this kind of ship, because it is the only spacecraft that carries fighters on frigates. And the fighters it carries are not driven by people, but a kind of drone equipped with built-in artificial intelligence. The Tachyon technology company that designed it stated that the AI level used by the ship is definitely below the upper limit of the Empire's explicit order on the strength of artificial intelligence. But many battle videos of the Rainstorm class show that the Terminator fighters it carries have powerful combat intuition and flexibility far beyond normal strength. So to be honest, Chen Ming is not surprised that such a spacecraft has become Yuhui's collection. After being modified by an Alpha-class Afterglow AI that is rumored to be capable of controlling a galaxy, but uses the ability to control galaxies in the design and modification of spacecraft, the value of this Storm-class ship is absolutely inestimable. So the meaning of Gamma B is also very clear. One spirit stone is equivalent to a professional technical master at the galaxy level, helping to modify the spacecraft and paying for the materials. It is basically equivalent to giving a framework and giving a super powerful spacecraft for free. It is impossible for Chen Ming to say that he is not tempted at this time. If he wants, he can completely transfer the spirit stone through 2 AIs and get such an opportunity. But Chen Ming does not want to give this spirit stone away just for the time being. He also wants to see what potential the spirit stone has. And at this time, Chen Ming suddenly thought of the additional disassembly function on his panel. This disassembly function can see the material ratio of the disassembled items before the actual disassembly operation. So Chen Ming seems to be able to use it to see what the essence of this spirit stone is. Chen Ming opened the panel of the spirit stone, whisper, in his hand, and saw the interface for executable operations. There is indeed a disassembly option on it. The material that can be obtained by disassembly is something called spiritual energy, totaling 16 grams. Chen Ming wrote down this name that seems even more outrageous than the spirit stone, and decided to keep the spirit stone for now. After all, this spirit stone is something related to psychic energy no matter what, and it is very likely that Chen Ming will have the opportunity to contact real psychics in the future. As for exploring the functions of the spirit stone, Gamma AI should not be able to help him for the time being. Chen Ming felt a little bit of pity in his heart. Originally, he was still hoping to get some valuable information from Yuhui's data-sharing platform, but the result can only be said to be not ideal. So much so that he even felt that his luck was getting worse after getting better. Because Chen Ming had actually thought of another way to use Yuhui's database before. For example, relying on the technology disclosed on that platform, as Gamma said. Chen Ming's first thought was to build a colony of his own like the Yuhui colony he had seen. Just think about the throughput of the goods in the Yuhui colony before, and you will know that this is definitely the most profitable one compared to any other means. In the period of time he saw before, the throughput of the Yuhui colony spaceport was enough to buy several destroyers. But Chen Ming immediately gave up this idea. The construction of a colony that can maintain self-sufficiency and even make money requires both human and financial resources. In the case that the price of a basic civilian ship often fluctuates around 5 million, the investment required to make money through the colony is definitely enough to empty Chen Ming's family assets several times. So Chen Ming just thought about it. Then he thought of a more suitable idea for him to get benefits from the Yuhui platform. Yuhui's spacecraft modification technology and maintenance technology. This is a professional counterpart, but there are also some troubles. Because the design ideas of Yuhui's ships are different from those of humans, unless Chen Ming only controls Yuhui's ships in the future, he must personally study and transfer the design ideas of Yuhui's ships to human ships. The most outstanding aspects of Yuhui's ship design are energy weapons and energy systems. The money and time spent on researching these two aspects are definitely not small. As for other ideas that can allow Chen Ming to quickly get benefits through the platform, Chen Ming also thought of a few, but there are not many possibilities to realize them. For example, the jump engine and the flash engine. Both must be installed on ships of at least cruiser level, relying on the resonance of the engine to drive other ships to jump or flash. At least that's what Chen Ming knows. So the result in the end is that Yuhui doesn't understand the spirit stone, but he has it, but he can't use it. And Yuhui is more familiar with and good at unmanned ship design, but he himself does not have the ability or the right place to use it for the time being. Chen Ming couldn't help but have a headache. Several ideas have not been realized for various reasons, so he can only temporarily follow the original plan. However, when Chen Ming thought of his plan, not only did his head hurt, but there was also a little haze in his heart. The reason was naturally the military outpost in the RM2 star system where Ruemu was located. Although Chen Ming had determined his own course of action a long time ago, he had to detach himself from the identity of a Shinda employee, cut off contact with Shinda and the military as much as possible, and start a new life. But this matter about the military and the mining space station came up like this, and Chen Ming couldn't just pretend not to see it. If he saw it, he couldn't help thinking. 30 years ago, before the last time he entered hibernation, Chen Ming had never heard of a military outpost set up in the star system where the mining space station was located. With so many spacecraft coming in and out of the mining space station, it is impossible that no news would leak out. So this outpost was definitely built after the insect plague broke out in the space station and all the personnel were killed. Chen Ming didn't believe it if there was no logical relationship. So after associating his understanding of the whole thing, an irresponsible guess came to his mind. When Cinda Corporation first chose to purchase the mineral mining rights of the galaxy, it was targeting the high-density and high-content mineral asteroids in the star ring of Ramu. This is law-abiding, and there is no problem. And the company should not have known that there were airfish in the star ring of the gas giant planet next to it. After all, the mining rights of this galaxy were sold by the official, and the official could not have let others take advantage of it for no reason. It is definitely that the official itself did not discover the existence of airfish. However, with the establishment of the mining space station, more and more people came here. Then one day, someone found traces of the existence of airfish. So the military closest to the mining space station chose to take the initiative, deal with the space station, and put the blame on the bugs. Then, under the pretext of the appearance of dangerous creatures in the galaxy was blocked, forcing Cinda Corporation to suffer a loss. However, the real situation should not be as simple as Chen Ming guessed. There must be more complex logical relationships and more complicated exchanges of interests. So Chen Ming also felt that the pirate space station with Cinda background was actually the product of the exchange of interest between Cinda Corporation and the military. After all, it is ridiculous to have a complete city built on a pirate space station. And if you think about it, you will know that without the mining space station as a relatively neutral spacecraft transfer point, for those who run in the marginal star field, there must be other alternatives, and the pirate space station is just suitable. If it is true as Chen Ming guessed, it will start with the military taking the initiative to conflict, and the two sides will sit at the negotiation table and exchange interests peacefully. Then the direction of things may be good or bad for Chen Ming. Because in this case, neither Xinda nor the military will pursue the matter of the space station too much. Before Chen Ming's identity is discovered, no one will take the initiative to investigate this matter, and his situation is very safe. However, if both sides know the existence of Chen Ming, in order to prevent the matter from being exposed, both sides may crush this little man. Of course, they may not care at all. After all, how much waves can Chen Ming make alone? But Chen Ming can't bet on this possibility, so it is the best choice for him to avoid being discovered. And if the truth is different from Chen Ming's guess, the matter is not resolved peacefully in the end, but Xinda suffered a loss in this matter. That means that the military will never want this matter to be overturned, and Xinda will try every means to find an opportunity to get back on track. Chen Ming thinks that the loss of a mining space station should be worth Xinda Company's record for a while, and his existence happens to be the key to this. So no matter what, if the military knows Chen Ming's identity, it is likely that he will not let him go, and Xinda will need to see the situation. Fortunately, the military outpost has been demolished. In order to obtain Sky Steel again, the outpost must be rebuilt. In a short time, they should not have too much energy to investigate other things. So Chen Ming still has time to do some things he should do. Chen Ming temporarily relaxed his mind and stopped thinking about too many things. It's almost time to go back to the space station. Chen Ming transferred the control of the iron ore to the lumen. He personally controlled the iron ore and took the lumen to enter the deep purple hyperspace channel again. It took Chen Ming more than a month to get from the dark cemetery to the pirate space station, but now it only takes a dozen seconds to pass through the hyperspace channel. 30 hours after Chen Ming left the space station. That is, more than 6 o'clock in the morning on Earth time, Chen Ming finally returned to the space station and entered the number 15 space arm. This is the last remaining dock in the space station. When Chen Ming approached the space station, he turned off the engine of the Lumen class and brought the Lumen back to the repair plant with the help of the traction equipment. Then he drove the iron ore out and parked it in the dock. When he got off the spaceship, Chen Ming noticed that the dock was more lively than before. It should be the mercenaries who had gone to support the military and then ran away. And Chen Ming also noticed that there seemed to be some people in the dock observing him and his iron ore. It should be what Lao Wu said before. The news that he drove a civilian ship to blow up 4 merchant ships spread, and it was not known whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. Chen Ming could not stop the gazes of others, so he chose to ignore it. He walked straight to the repair plant. In the repair plant, Chen Ming met the factory director. He had obviously seen Chen Ming's spaceship in the Lumen class just now, and was not surprised by Chen Ming's appearance. But after greeting Chen Ming, he looked at Chen Ming as if he was looking at something rare. Chen Ming felt uncomfortable being stared at by him, and took the initiative to say, "Director, is there any work that needs people to do?" "Yes, there is, but you and your captain just robbed the ship back. Do you need to rest for 2 days?" Chen Ming felt that the director's attitude towards him seemed to have changed, a good change. Although Chen Ming was not clear about the reason for this change, he felt that it should not be a bad thing. And Chen Ming had rested before, so he insisted, "No, just start working directly. I haven't taken a day off, so it's better to go back to work." "That's fine." The director waved to the depths of the maintenance plant and shouted, "Old Wu, take the people to the place for me." Old Wu appeared in front of Chen Ming in a flash, looked Chen Ming up and down and said, "Okay." He took Chen Ming to the depths of the maintenance plant. After leaving the factory director's site, Old Wu said as if he had just seen Chen Ming, "Hey, Xiaomu, you're back. What have you been doing these 2 days?" Chen Ming looked at Old Wu, who was smiling and pretending to be stupid, and said seriously, "I want to hang out with you Hui. They invited me to participate in the military operation against the military. Do you still like to tell jokes?" Chen Ming shrugged and pointed to the maintenance area. "You saw it all. That Yu Hui ship didn't keep up with Yu Hui's large force. We found an opportunity to catch up and bring it back." Old Wu stared at the Lumen class for a few seconds and said, "It's really good. If you sell this spaceship, plus the previous one, you will get at least 50 million. You have only been in the space station for a few days." Chen Ming heard the hidden meaning of Old Wu and said, "I'm not in such a hurry to leave. Even if I make money, I still have things to do. And if you envy me, you can also follow me to find Yu Hui. As long as you can bring back one, you can also earn so much." After receiving Chen Ming's reply, Old Wu said with a smile, "Forget it. My old bones can't do anything life-threatening. Oh, by the way, the factory director asked me to ask you, do you have any plans to sell the Yu Hui AI core in your hand?" When Chen Ming heard Old Wu's question, he wanted to deny the existence of the AI core in his hand. However, he hesitated suddenly. Because there are many forces and even the official acquisition of Yu Hui AI core, it is a fact known to everyone who has contact with this work. So it is not an exaggeration to compare the AI core with 3 companies. Chen Ming just subconsciously guarded and wanted to conceal it. But for some reason, Chen Ming suddenly felt that he could take the initiative to give some trust to others, so he changed his words and said, "Gamma AI is still useful to me for the time being, and I want to try to study it." "Oh, then if you change your mind, go find the factory director." Old Wu seemed to be asking for the factory director, by the way, and he stopped talking nonsense after mentioning it. He took Chen Ming to the deepest part of the repair factory, where the engineering ships were parked. The 2 engineering ships stayed here quietly. Old Wu took the initiative to step forward and start the daily ship maintenance, and Chen Ming went up to help and asked, "What do you want me to do today? Or is it the same as before?" Old Wu's face suddenly flashed a moment of relief, but it was immediately covered by the grinning corners and the smile. "You will know soon." The maintenance time of the spacecraft passed quickly, and time came to 8 o'clock in a blink of an eye, the official working time of the repair factory. Then, Chen Ming, who was alone next to the engineering ship, saw Old Wu, who had just run out mysteriously, and walked in with 3 people in work clothes that Chen Ming had never seen before. "It looks like the repair shop has recruited new people." Old Wu brought these 3 new people to Chen Ming, pointed at them and said, "Xiaomu, these 3 people are assigned to you as assistants. Please keep an eye on them." Chen Ming nodded. Although Old Wu said that he wanted them to help him, he knew what he meant. Then Old Wu put his hand on Chen Ming's shoulder and said, "I told you this before, Mu Shuikong, Brother Mu, you will follow him today." As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Ming heard Old Wu whisper to him, "You can tell me a little bit about those private matters. The smart ones will learn it, and the stupid ones will be ignored. Otherwise, even if Old Lu protects you, you will be in trouble." Chen Ming also said calmly, "Don't worry. You can take 10% or 20% of what they touch when the time comes. Don't teach them in vain." "Got it. That's it. I'm on duty today. I'll leave first." After explaining what he should explain, Old Wu disappeared all of a sudden. It was unknown whether he would skip work at the repair shop alone. Chen Ming's eyes moved away from the partition door of the repair shop where Old Wu disappeared and moved to the 3 newcomers. The 3 of them stood there a little stiffly. They didn't look like people with a criminal record at all. They looked like college students who had not graduated yet and were looking for internships. After noticing Chen Ming's look, The three people respectfully called out to Chen Ming, "Brother Mu." Chen Ming had never been treated like this before and was a little uncomfortable, but he quickly adapted. Looking at the other ship where the factory manager Bald and Tian Jiwen were preparing, Chen Ming stopped wasting time. He waved to the three waiting newcomers and said, "Follow me." Chen Ming had never done anything like bringing in newcomers, but he thought he could give it a try. Because after he came back from the Yuhui colony, he actually didn't care or look down on the private gains when cleaning the battlefield. If he had someone to help him, he could have some free time. When he was free, Chen Ming had time to do what he wanted to do before. For example, purchasing weapons for refurbishment. Chen Ming had been thinking about this matter since the day he entered the pirate space station. It's just that every day after that was busy, or there were other things to do, so he never had time to do it. Now if someone can help me save time, then this matter can really start. Making money is secondary. After selling half of the Yuhui destroyer, although the money is not too much, it is enough for Chen Ming. He still wants to do this now, mainly to exercise his mental power. The benefits of increasing mental power are obvious. It is never a bad thing to make some money while exercising mental power. In addition, Chen Ming also needs to take time to modify the iron, or during this period of time to completely cut off the connection with the past. Then wait for a free time and go to Yuhui's colony again. If he doesn't try to do something to get some of Yuhui's AI core, Chen Ming always feels like there are ants crawling on his body. But things have to be done one by one, and he doesn't have anything urgent now. Anyway, the military outposts have been demolished by Yuhui, and their main focus now is definitely on rebuilding the outposts and reproducing sky steel. Chen Ming doesn't believe that they will deliberately divide their energy to do such things under such circumstances. If the military really doesn't care about the priceless sky steel and insists on dealing with him, then he will eat Xiaoshi on the spot. Just when Chen Ming had such an idea in his mind. Xiaoshi, who was playing in the running while made by Chen Ming on the iron ore, suddenly stopped its action and looked around vigilantly. But it didn't find anything unusual. Xiaoshi's little eyes were full of doubts, and it always felt that it seemed to have had this feeling before. But it immediately put this doubt behind its head and continued to play by itself. A few days after Chen Ming returned to the space station, the military returned to the RM-2 star system with a reorganized fleet. In addition to the ships that ensure combat capability, there are also a large number of engineering ships and transport ships full of cargo in the fleet. Relying on a large investment in manpower and materials, the military took less than a week to repair the outpost that was half-bombed by the afterglow. After the outpost was repaired, the military's high-intensity sensors swept the entire galaxy. Soon, an expedited report was passed from the grassroots level of the military to the top layer by layer. It was finally delivered to the person in charge of the outpost, the captain of the ruler-class ship. When the report was delivered, the captain's deputy, who was responsible for conveying the captain's instructions and handing over the report after sorting it out, saw the captain's gloomy face that he had never had in many years. 2 more days passed. Abandoned mining space station in the RM-2 star system. A small transport ship suddenly appeared near it. The 5 people in the cabin were all wearing professional weapons and equipment. This was a special mission combat team. The captain, leaning against the hatch, suddenly knocked on the spacecraft cabin beside him, attracting the attention of the team members, and said, "Confirm the mission one last time. We need to enter the abandoned mining space station number DG-C 9527 to investigate the cause of the disappearance of the equally abandoned civilian mining ship, Iron Ore, in the space station. Are there any questions?"
No. No.
After receiving scattered responses from the team members, the captain's voice sounded again, "Let's go." The small transport ship gradually approached the dock of the space station. However, before the appearance of the space station could be seen with the naked eye, a team member suddenly said, "To be honest, this should have happened 30 years ago, right? Why is there a problem only now?" The captain recalled the mission documents he had read many times and said, "I heard that the person in charge of the detector blocked all the recorded spacecraft signals in order to save trouble and not have to go through the list of spacecraft in the galaxy every day. The sensor will only scan new ships, and the effect is similar, but the ships that have been recorded will not be monitored at all." Now that the outpost has been rebuilt, the sensor will be rescanned, and then the problem will be found. There is one less ship on the space station, and there are some signs of human damage. The team member asked in surprise. If the foreign ships have been monitoring it all the time, does that mean someone has lived on that abandoned space station for 30 years? The captain shook his head casually and said, not necessarily 30 years. I remember that the person in charge of the detector at the outpost seems to be replaced every 5 years, and a new person will be replaced next year. It is very likely that the ship was gone a few years ago, but it was only discovered now. In any case, don't worry about it for now. For a few years, we are not sure whether it is the dry in the space station now, or it is said that some people have sneaked into the galaxy. If it is an insider, this person used to be frozen in the freezing warehouse, so after we went up, we had to go to the living area with dormant warehouses. The players saw the space station gradually becoming outside the porthole, saying, because it is relatively open here, you can find it as soon as possible. And the task record was not written? At the time, the space station was destroyed by a group of bugs hiding inside the stars. The ground asked, what bug can destroy a space station? A bug of the same size as humans. That's not so. The crust can still block bullets. Under the control of the driver, the transport ship gradually approached the dock of the space station. After swimming around the dock for a few times and finding no emergencies, the transport ship stopped steadily at the dock. The hatch of the spacecraft opened, and several team members filed down, carefully on guard. Although the dock of the space station was dilapidated and stained in many places, it did not seem to be dangerous. Just now, the spacecraft approached with such a big noise, but no bugs or other things came over, so the dock should be safe. After confirming that there was nothing dangerous on the dockside, the captain displayed a map of the space station on the inside of his protective suit helmet. After slightly confirming the direction, he said to the team members, let's go in. The team members quickly maintained a formation that could respond to various emergencies at any time, quietly and quickly passed through the dock, and came to the office area. Just when they entered the junction of the dock and the office area, a team member suddenly said in the communication channel, what is this? The others immediately approached the talking team member and saw a smooth hole on the wall of the office area. On the wall of the other office area opposite this wall, there was another identical hole. And deeper in the space station, there were more such holes. This is a bit like a weapon of the mechanical family. The captain moved a little closer so that the recorder on the helmet could clearly capture the specific appearance of the bullet hole. The specific analysis of the bullet hole needs to be handed over to professionals who are only responsible for recording. The team did not stay at the edge of the office area for too long. Soon, under the guidance of the map, they found the mining space station management office safely all the way. There was no sign of chaos in the office, only a skeleton lying on the desk. The computer in front of the skeleton was not damaged. A team member immediately stepped forward, removed the computer's storage device, and began to read the data in it using the small terminal he carried with him. After operating for a while, the team member looked up and said to the captain, Captain, the list of long-term dormant personnel in the space station you asked for is here, a total of 10 people. In addition, I have also retrieved the overall list of personnel in the space station and will send it to you immediately. The captain gave him a thumbs up, and after the list of personnel was sent, he wrote down the names and appearances of the 10 people. After confirming that there were no other valuable things in the office, they came to the monitoring room, which was also in the office area. However, the monitoring room was quite chaotic. Not only was there dry dirt everywhere, but even all the equipment was destroyed. The team member in charge of managing electronic equipment checked it, and finally only got a recording device that was barely not completely destroyed, which needed to be repaired before it could be read. However, several people in the team knew that the possibility of recording valuable information in this device was close to zero. The 2 valuable locations in the office area were searched. The captain continued to look at the map and said to the team members, let's go to the living area next. The frozen dormant chamber is over there. The team members followed the captain one by one, passed through the office area, and entered the public area in the center of the space station. At this point, their nerves, which had been a little relaxed, suddenly tensed up. Because in the corners of the public area and in the passages leading to the lower levels, There were many growths covering them. However, they soon noticed that these growths had lost their activity at this time, and there were no signs of activity. And there seemed to be many giant egg-shaped objects between the growths. But now they have all disappeared. After confirming that the surrounding environment was safe, a team member stepped forward to obtain some samples of the growths. When observing the samples carefully, some couldn't help but say, "Are these things left by the bugs?" The talkative team member also came to the side of the samples and took a few glances and said, "It should be. The source of the insect outbreak in the space station is probably below." The captain interrupted at this time, "Don't worry about these things. Our mission is to find out where the missing spacecraft went." The two of them returned to the team very quickly, but they didn't stop talking. "Actually, I'm curious about where the bugs have gone. It's been 30 years, so they should be dead. How could a bug that can survive on an asteroid die for no reason? Anything can happen in space." "That's right." The two of them quickly ended the topic and continued to follow the captain through the public area to the living area, which was also covered with a large number of dried-up organisms. The density of the organisms here is less than that in the public area, and a little attention will not affect movement at all. The team quickly followed the map and found 3 cryostasis chambers that were close to each other. They started searching from the cryostasis chamber closest to the public area. However, the first 2 cryostasis chambers only had equipment that was completely destroyed, until they entered the 3rd cryostasis chamber. As soon as they entered, the team saw the skeletons of the white coats on the ground and the bodies of the bugs that died with them. It should be Dr. Ding He, who is responsible for the daily monitoring of the cryostasis personnel in the space station. The captain finished speaking and waved his hand to signal others to start searching. Soon, everyone gathered around a cryostasis chamber. Because this cryostasis chamber had obvious signs of being opened recently. And next to the cryostasis chamber was a simple personal information printed. A team member read out the information. "Maintenance engineer, number 519, Chen Ming." Is it him? The team member in charge of electronic equipment was connecting his terminal to the hibernation chamber at this time. After a simple operation, he said, "It is likely that the human body parameter configuration of the frozen hibernation chamber matches the configuration in his system records, and I also found a record that this hibernation chamber was activated half a year ago." Who activated it? No one. It should be that the space station lost power once, causing the hibernation chamber to restart, so the person was released. Didn't we see it when we scanned it before? The fuel of the space station is empty. That's him. The captain set the tone directly. The question now is, how did he survive and then escape in that shabby civilian ship? Who knows anyway? It's okay as long as we know who it is. Why do you think the director is looking for this Chen Ming? I guess it's to protect a person who has lived in the mouth of insects for 30 years as a representative of our human beings' indomitable will to survive. Are you kidding? The captain interrupted the 2 bickering team members and said, "Stop talking nonsense. It's time to go. Our mission is not over yet. We have to find this Chen Ming." This person may have died in a corner a long time ago. How can we find him? The captain seemed to be completely unconcerned about this aspect of the problem. It doesn't matter whether we can find him or not. What matters is that we have found him. The universe is so big. Where should we start? The nearest one. The mining space station welcomed the first batch of guests after being abandoned for 30 years. At the same time, Chen Ming was carrying a machine gun that could be installed on a small load-bearing point, standing on the horizontal elevator that can be seen everywhere in the space station, heading towards the space station administration. A few days after he returned to the space station, he had already taken the time to test the matters that needed to be paid attention to in the actual operation of the battery refurbishment of weapons. It happened that it was his turn to be on duty at the maintenance plant today, and he did not need to go out for field work. So Chen Ming directly handed the task of guarding the gate of the maintenance plant to a newcomer who stayed with him. He skipped his shift, pushed a cart, and ran to the building of the administration with a brand new machine gun, ready to find the factory director. If Chen Ming had not reported in advance that the workshop under the administration building needed to be tested with a machine gun, and the machine gun only had a bare barrel and no ammunition, the security would definitely stop Chen Ming. But at least he successfully brought the things in. to the outside of the factory director's office. Chen Ming knocked on the door of the office and walked in after getting a response. The factory director, who was sitting behind the desk, looked up and found Chen Ming and said with some surprise, "It's Xiao Mu. What's the matter that you suddenly come to me?" Chen Ming didn't waste words and pulled the cart into the office and said, "Director, take a look at this." The factory director stared at the machine gun with more surprise and asked, "What is this? The new weapon you bought? What's wrong?" "This is one of the second-hand weapons you approved for me before." The factory director stood up directly, walked to Chen Ming, and carefully observed the machine gun. As he looked at it, he couldn't help but half squat on the ground, stretched out his hand to touch it, and said while carefully confirming, "Is this really second-hand? It's not so new, right?" "Wait a minute. Oh, I remember. You told Lao Wu before that you have the idea of refurbishing the weapon, right?" As the factory director said, he saw the hidden corner of the weapon, where the factory number of the weapon was recorded. He just happened to have some impression of this number, which can prove that this weapon is indeed a second-hand recycled weapon that he approved directly to Chen Ming before. The factory manager suddenly laughed helplessly and said, "Old Wu, and I didn't understand what you wanted to do before, but in the end it was because we didn't have the skills. So you came to me with this, wanting to cooperate with the repair factory and make money by passing off old goods as new?" Chen Ming nodded and said, "Yes, because I know that even if I have the skills, I can't do this kind of thing alone. So I first found a way to join the repair factory and then tell you this. Otherwise, I won't even see you, let alone other things." The factory manager suddenly stood up. He has confirmed that with his technical level, he can't see any difference between the weapons repaired by Chen Ming and the new weapons that have just left the factory. And since Chen Ming is confident in doing this, there is a high probability that there will be no problem in cheating other people. "So you were planning to make money this way from the beginning?" "Yes, but there was an accident in the middle." "Your accident was that you drove a civilian mining ship to blow up 4 merchant ships, and then brought back half of Yuhui's destroyer, which made you a fortune, right?" "Almost, but it was my captain who did it." When the factory manager heard Chen Ming's words, he suddenly remembered what he had talked about with the hardware store owner Lao Wu a few days ago, and echoed, "Oh, yes, it was your captain. But it doesn't make much difference. You must have made money anyway. But since you have made money, do you still need to stay here?" Chen Ming knew what the factory manager meant, and said in a matter-of-fact tone, "You can never have too much money. I have already paved the way here. If you don't use it, it will be a loss." The factory manager looked Chen Ming up and down and accepted his reason. "Yes, then let's talk about business. What is the cost of refurbishing this thing?" "My labor cost, plus the most basic materials required for maintenance. That's it." "What's the difference between this and no cost?" Chen Ming shrugged and did not answer the factory manager's question. And the factory manager knew very well that Chen Ming would not tell such a lie that would make him lose money. So after a brief thought, he said, "In this case, all your previous tasks are canceled. You don't need to do tasks such as cleaning the battlefield and bringing in new people. You only need to receive the recovered weapons every day and refurbish them of this quality. You can use the equipment in the repair shop at will." Chen Ming interrupted and said, "I don't need to use the equipment in the repair shop. I have my studio on my ship and I can work on the ship." "Is that so? Then how efficient are you with your own equipment?" "For the ones I brought here, I can refurbish 50 a day." "How many?" 50. This is not the upper limit of the weapon repair speed, nor is it the upper limit of Chen Ming's mental power, but the upper limit that Chen Ming is worried that people will not believe if he says too much. The factory director simply calculated in his mind at this time. The value of an ordinary civilian small ship weapon ranges from 50,000 to 200,000. If it is a military weapon, the price can be 3 to 4 times more expensive. And the recycling price is completely negligible compared to the normal selling price of new weapons. If Chen Ming buys weapons and renovates them, the profit he can get is almost equal to the value of a weapon itself. Assuming that the average value of weapons sold by the repair shop is 200,000 yuan a day, and 50 weapons can be sold a day, then the net profit is close to 10 million yuan a day. In fact, it may even be more than that. The pirate space station has high mobility, and the edge star field is very dangerous, so spaceships and weapons are in rigid demand. The amount of weapons sold every day will only increase, not decrease. And he doesn't need to let Chen Ming refurbish small and worthless weapons. Refurbishing military weapons and medium-sized weapons is definitely a better choice. Although these two are sold more slowly, the profit is definitely higher than those low-level weapons. You should know that when the repair shop is doing the best business, the daily income is generally around 40 to 50 million yuan, and when it is the quietest, it is about a few million. Chen Ming alone can be worth half of the repair shop, which is really a bit exaggerated. After all, if you buy weapons from suppliers and sell them, you can only make a profit of more than 10% of the selling price for a weapon. How can it be like Chen Ming's refurbished weapons, earning more than 90% of the selling price in profit? The actual profit rate is 10 times. The factory manager calmed down his slightly excited emotions and said, "Then, how about a 50 to 50 split in the end?" Chen Ming thought about it for a while. What the space station has to do is to provide sales channels and recycling sources for secondhand weapons, and use their relationships to obtain the factory codes of weapons. These are things that Chen Ming can never do, and 50% is almost enough. So he directly agreed, "No problem. Do you need to sign a contract?" "No, just treat it as your usual work task. When the time comes, I will list the weapons you refurbish, and you can see the destination and selling price. You are in this field, you must know the price of weapons, and your share will definitely not be less." It's about the refurbishment of weapons. Chen Ming did not leave in a hurry, but continued to say to the factory director, "There is one more thing, factory director. I want to make a fake identification code for a few spaceships. This is easy, you go to Lao Wu, he will help you get it done." Chen Ming did not move and said hesitantly, "It's a bit troublesome for me to make a spaceship with a fake identification code. There is Yuhui's ship inside." Yuhui's ship? The factory director thought about it and said, "It's not impossible. Some people in other places have also made things in this regard for collection. I will contact them for you later. It may take some time to get it, and the money spent will definitely be different from other ships." "I understand this. I am not short of money for the time being." The factory director nodded slightly and suddenly asked curiously, "You keep Yuhui's ship and want to take it back? It's not to study whether the AI core can be controlled by you and whether it can be used to drive the ship?"
No.
Although Chen Ming denied it, the factory manager acted as if he didn't hear it and said, "If you really want to do something like this, I suggest you do it here. If you go back to the prosperous star field, the patrol team will come to scan you from time to time. If your AI core is scanned, it will definitely be confiscated." Chen Ming didn't say anything, and the factory manager didn't care. Seeing that Chen Ming didn't mean to leave, he asked again, "Do you have anything else to do?" "Yes." Chen Ming gave a positive answer and said, "In addition to Yu Hui's ship, there are 2 military ships that I want to get the identification code of." "Equipped with a militarized subsystem?" "Almost, it's a military ship." The factory manager was really surprised that Chen Ming directly told him that he had a military ship. And Chen Ming did have some gambling ideas in mind. Because the factory manager now has the militaries in action and not helping the space station when the Afterglow attacked, and Chen Ming has provided the factory manager with a lot of benefits. So Chen Ming felt that under such circumstances, he could take the initiative to test the factory manager's attitude towards the military. In this way, he could decide whether to continue to maintain the current relationship with the factory manager as colleagues, superiors, and business partners, or even a closer relationship. However, Chen Ming's test did not seem to be of much use. The factory manager did not seem to care, but stared at Chen Ming with a puzzled look on his face for a few times, realizing where Chen Ming had gone when he was out. Then he did not shy away from talking about military ships at all, and said directly, "The identification codes of military ships can indeed be obtained, and they are easier to obtain than those of UA ships. Their ships often have some obsolete models, which are sold to the public after the military systems are removed. You can use the fake identification code as you like, as long as you don't expose the military system to the military. Speaking of this, I have to remind you again, that is, if you really want to return to the prosperous star field in the future, it is best to directly dismantle those military systems, otherwise it may cause trouble." Dismantle the military system? Chen Ming was stunned for a moment, and his mind suddenly went blank as if he had been electrocuted, leaving only this sentence. He has always ignored one thing intentionally or unintentionally. That is, the prosperous star field within the human empire is a place with perfect order and rules, and there is also a strong force to ensure the existence of order and the implementation of rules. If Chen Ming wants to go back, he must follow the order and rules established by force. According to the requirements of the laws of the empire, people like him who have no special status can only drive civilian castrated spaceships. This means that all the ships he has on hand, except the iron ore, must be castrated before they can be safely driven in the prosperous star field. Even the weapons of the iron ore must be castrated according to the regulations. At least the weapons removed from the two mechanical clans are absolutely unusable. Chen Ming felt a little uncomfortable when he thought of this. But he also knew that this was not something the factory director could decide. The factory director just reminded him of the rules that he must abide by if he wants to go back. Faced with the factory director's kind reminder, Chen Ming could only honestly say, "I will pay attention." As soon as he said this, Chen Ming suddenly felt an inexplicable feeling of anxiety and discomfort in his heart. This is not physical discomfort, but psychological discomfort. It's like wearing loose casual clothes here, and you have to wear tights when you go back. And the actual situation is much more serious than what clothes you wear. If Chen Ming didn't do this, and if he was found out by the authorities after returning, having his spaceship towed away and required to make corrections would be considered a light punishment, and he might even have to spend several years in prison. When thinking about what might happen in the future, Chen Ming felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. Not only must he be restricted by the rules, but there is also the uneasiness of losing the ability to fight and protect himself. No matter how prosperous the empire is, it is not solid. It is impossible to say that there are people in every galaxy and every planet. This means that there are also pirates in the prosperous star field, and those pirates in the prosperous star field who can form their own fleets will be stronger and more brutal than those in the marginal star field. Although Chen Ming knew that there would not be as many pirates in the prosperous star field as in the marginal star field, the probability of encountering them was very low. But if his spacecraft dismantled the military system, he would really have no ability to resist if he really encountered danger. This situation without any sense of security made Chen Ming, who has always been inclined to plan before taking action and take a safe path, very uncomfortable. So much so that he now has a slight shaken idea of returning to the prosperous star field. He even forgot about the current situation. Chen Ming's sudden silence and strange behavior made the factory director discover something. He reached out and dragged a chair to Chen Ming's side and asked in a gentle tone, "Is this your first time to the Edge star field?" Chen Ming suddenly got rid of his anxious thoughts. After hesitating for a moment, he decided to answer truthfully. It can't be considered the first time, but it is indeed the first time to come to a place like this. That's not surprising. Do you feel that you don't have to care about any rules now, but you have to abide by a lot of rules after you go back, which gives you a headache? The factory director said everything Chen Ming was thinking about at once. After all, he must be an old man, and many things are definitely not accustomed to him. Chen Ming is indeed a little confused now, so he can try to listen to other people's opinions and make decisions based on his own situation. So Chen Ming nodded and said, "Yes, a little." "Well, I have a few ways to help you solve the problem. Just listen to them. It's up to you to decide." The first one is the simplest. Go to any regular space station in the fringe star field for a while. It's best to find a temporary job and try to stay in a normal environment to concentrate. Follow the rules honestly and don't run around. Generally, you will adapt in 1 or 2 months. Then you can go back with the big caravan with official background. Your safety is guaranteed. The factory manager looked at Chen Ming while talking. However, Chen Ming is now sitting motionless on the chair. No one can see what kind of expression or thoughts he has under the protective suit. The factory director exhaled slightly, and after a slight hesitation, he suddenly said as if he had made up his mind, "Another way. You saw it when you signed the contract before. We are a subsidiary of Shinda Company. In fact, Shinda Company has a special armed fleet, which can drive military ships in the prosperous star field. You know this thing called an armed ship license, right?" "Yes." An armed ship license is something that ordinary people can never apply for, but it will be issued to certain people by the imperial government. In addition to giving it to large companies like Shinda, the government will also give such licenses to bounty hunters or mercenaries who have made a name for themselves in the marginal star field, requiring them to deal with pirates. Deal with those elite pirates in the prosperous star field who are not worthy of the Army's special handling, but the patrol team of the galaxy cannot handle them. It is normal for Shinda Company to have such things, and it is also normal to distribute them to people, but it is not normal to distribute them to Chen Ming. So Chen Ming did not speak, and waited for the factory director to continue. Although our space station is in such a ghost place and has no proper name, the promotion channel within the company is counted together. That is to say, if you do well here, you can also be promoted to the main company. As long as your technology can be promoted, it won't be a problem to approve a license. The factory director said it very clearly, but Chen Ming knew that he hadn't said it out loud, but both of them understood one thing. If Chen Ming wants to go up through the internal path of Shinda Company, he must join with his real identity. In the past, Chen Ming only wanted to support himself, but now he has always pursued opportunities to improve and develop himself. So joining a big company is definitely an option. And Chen Ming has indeed had a general idea during this period. 30 years ago, Chen Ming wanted to do this more difficult job in the marginal star field to mix up his qualifications. When the task arrangement cycle is over, he will definitely be promoted to a level or a half when he returns to the company headquarters. Repeat it several times when he was young, from a maintenance technician to a maintenance technician manager, and from a technical position to a management position. At this point, it was enough for Chen Ming in the past, but it is far from enough for Chen Ming now. Now he also wants to return to the technical position from the management position on this basis. Of course, he is not going to be a maintenance worker, but a researcher. Chen Ming knows that large companies like Shinda generally have their own specialized research institutes, and only the top technical talents can enter. Even if these technicians have been in the Laboratory Research Institute for many years, they have mastered more and stronger skills than Chen Ming now. So Chen Ming wants to invest more in the research of spacecraft technology and wants to join such a place on his own. The purpose is very simple. One is to improve himself. The other is to cooperate with his panel. Chen Ming's ability to directly control the spacecraft through the panel can definitely be used in the research of spacecraft technology. As long as Chen Ming can use his ability to publish some research results, give full play to his ability and technical talent, and gradually gain a certain voice in the institute. If everything goes well, he should be able to have his own research institute in the end. Isn't this much better than being a low-ranking manager in the company? Chen Ming believed that he had talent. Because if he remembered correctly, he should be 25 years old now, not counting the time of cryopreservation. An orphan spent 25 years from nothing to become a professional repairman responsible for important maintenance tasks under Shinda Company. If this is said to be without talent, then no one can be said to have talent. And Chen Ming himself, without any foundation, spent only half a year to thoroughly master everything in the past 25 years through memory. Even the actual operation did not fall behind. At most, there were only some long-term experience deficiencies. So in the right time, right place and right people, Chen Ming had both the right time panel and the right people's talent. Joining a large company and becoming a professional technical researcher is a path that Chen Ming is very happy to accept. But this matter just happened to have a problem with the location. The factory director mentioned the Shinda Company at this time, which made Chen Ming completely unable to make a decision. Although it is certain that the factory director has no good attitude towards the military, and the millions of dollars in profit that day is enough for him to protect Chen Ming in many places. But Chen Ming is still unclear about the company's attitude. If the upper echelons of Shinda Company and the military are birds of a feather, then Chen Ming is basically no different from walking into a trap. In front of the real upper echelons of the company, the identity of the factory director is not good enough. Chen Ming can't go to the office of the director of the Space Station Administration Bureau to ask him what he thinks about the abandoned mining space station. He can only conduct an indirect investigation through the factory director. And Chen Ming had better wait until the factory director sees the benefits of his technology and has substantial interest tied to it, and then try to ask the factory director if he knows about the mining space station. After the company's attitude is completely determined, Chen Ming can really make a decision. So now, Chen Ming's answer can only be, "I'll think about it again." Okay. The factory manager said casually, "Anyway, you actually have a third way to go. Just stay here. When you make enough money and can live a life of luxury, wouldn't it be better to find a good planet to stay on? Come to me if you change your mind, and the same goes for the previous one. The price I give you will definitely be the best." Chen Ming nodded solemnly to the factory manager, got up, and left the office. After leaving the building of the administration, Chen Ming returned to the number 15 space arm, but he did not go back to the maintenance plant, but chose to skip work directly. Came to the vicinity of the iron mine. The iron mine was now very different from when Chen Ming just returned to the space station, because he had made a major transformation of the iron mine in the past few days. The overall appearance of the iron mine has changed from the original square iron block to the current slightly streamlined appearance, and the overall bright white color has not changed. And not only the appearance, but also the interior of the iron ore has undergone a lot of transformation. All the old equipment on the iron ore from 30 years ago was dismantled by Chen Ming and replaced with the best models within the range that his wallet could accept. After the equipment was updated, Chen Ming also deliberately slightly reduced the proportion of useless space in the ship, such as the captain's room that was completely useless. More space and load were used on the cargo hold, armor, and engine. These are nothing. The most important thing is that Chen Ming also installed a new system on the iron ore, the radiation energy system. This means that the iron ore can start using shield modules and truly professional and powerful military weapons. This whole system cost him nearly 10 million, almost 1/5 of his assets. So much so that Chen Ming was still thinking during the transformation. Can it save expenses by cutting a complete shield module on other frigates into two halves, and then repairing each of them to make two complete shield modules? Unfortunately, Chen Ming found that it didn't work after trying it. The shield module cut in half would reconnect as soon as it was repaired, and the repair interface of the panel always only showed the almost negligible materials needed to stick the shield module cut in half together. Even if he stayed in the space station with half of the shield module and threw the other half into the dark cemetery, it would be the same. As long as the repair button was pressed, the other half of the shield module would suddenly appear in the palm of Chen Ming's hand in liquid form and connect with the half of the shield module in his hand for repair. And doing so would also consume a lot of his mental energy, which was completely a loss-making behavior. So in the end, Chen Ming could only spend the money with great pain. The final result of the transformation was that although this ship still looked like a civilian mining ship, it was actually a professional military spacecraft with extremely strong survivability. After all, the purpose of the iron ore was very clear. It was the spaceship that Chen Ming drove on a daily basis, and it was also the last line of defense to protect him. All modifications were made with the highest priority of life-saving ability, which took Chen Ming a lot of time and effort. But it was such a spaceship that gave Chen Ming a headache when he saw it. The reason for the headache was naturally the rules he had to abide by after returning to the prosperous star field. Chen Ming hadn't figured out what to do now, so he could only sigh slightly and move his eyes away from the iron ore, not considering this aspect for the time being. He didn't come here to see what happened to his spaceship, but he had other things to do. At this time, next to the iron ore, there were several strong men wearing exoskeletons waiting for something. Chen Ming naturally knew who they were waiting for, but he didn't rush over immediately. Instead, he took a few more glances at their exoskeleton equipment. This was one of the few times Chen Ming saw someone wearing this kind of mechanical exoskeleton for assisting work after he came to the space station. Chen Ming was definitely interested in these things, but he had no intention of actually studying or using them, because most of the knowledge in Chen Ming's mind was about the technology of spacecraft and large equipment, and he didn't know much about this kind of exoskeleton machinery used on individuals. If he really wanted to study, he would have to learn a lot of new things. But now, apart from work, he spent his evenings and other free time reading various professional books and had no extra energy to do other things. And there was actually no suitable environment for the use of exoskeletons. Chen Ming had now returned from Reimu, and it was unlikely that he would need to go out to work in person, so it was enough to just look at the exoskeleton, but there was no need to actually use it. Chen Ming looked at the exoskeleton for a while and then walked up and greeted the few people waiting next to the iron ore. After confirming their identities, he asked them to help carry all the more than a dozen boxes of heavy goods he brought onto the spacecraft. These goods were a large number of materials that Chen Ming bought from the owner of the recycling shop that Lao Wu recommended a few days ago. Because some materials need to be pre-ordered or are out of stock, they have not been gathered until today. It happened that Chen Ming was on duty today and did not need to go out, so he asked the owner of the recycling shop to deliver them today. In addition to a large amount of basic materials and high-grade metal materials, there are also a small amount of special metal materials. The effect is naturally obvious. After more than a dozen boxes of goods were moved, although Chen Ming had confirmed that the boss had not been short of weight, he still pretended to count them and sign the receipt. But today's business is not over yet. Chen Ming directly closed the hatch and started the engine of the iron ore. He drove the iron ore out of the space station alone and entered the hyperspace channel at the edge of the galaxy. Set off for the dark cemetery. The iron ore arrived at the destination almost instantly and connected to the communication channel of the two spacecraft controlled by the Gamma AI. Although Chen Ming took time to chat with the two AIs near the dark cemetery every day, talking about Yuhui or human beings. However, out of concern, in case Yuhui would suffer from depression or other problems, Chen Ming still asked, "Is it okay for you to stay here alone?" Gamma A was still the same as before. He immediately answered Chen Ming's question, "No problem, we can kill time by learning the data downloaded before. As long as you can take us back to the galaxy with Yuhui communication beacon every once in a while, we can stay like this forever." After Gamma A finished speaking, Gamma B simply said, "Me too." "That's good." After Chen Ming confirmed that Gamma AI was fine, he turned around and began to prepare what he had to do. Repairing the spacecraft. There are a total of 4 spacecraft parked here in the dark cemetery, namely Refraction, Glimmer, Fighter Kai, and Centurion. The Refraction class had been inspected in the Yuhui colony before and did not need repair, while the remaining 3 ships were repaired with the help of the panel. Except for the Glimmer class, which was also a ship of the Afterglow, which was relatively seriously damaged and took a little longer, the other 2 ships were basically repaired in an instant. In fact, the Glimmer class had a chance to be repaired when the Refraction class docked in the colony before, but because the ship was taken away by the Refraction class in a destroyed state, the original AI core on it had been removed and the hull was abandoned. So in the Afterglow side, the Glimmer class was in the hands of Gamma A. Therefore, repairing it in the colony is not free, but requires the consumption of Gamma A's material quota. Although it is not that it cannot be repaired, if it really needs to be repaired, all 4 ships that were squeezed together in the belly of the Refraction class at that time must be taken out. And the most abundant thing in a place like a factory is various equipment with strange functions. If the ship factory has scanning equipment and happens to scan the situation inside the iron ore, then it will be a big problem. So at that time, Chen Ming felt that it was too dangerous to do so, so he simply gave up the idea. It was not until later that Chen Ming learned about the specific situation of the ship factory in Yuhui when he was chatting with Gamma A. Simply put, the factory will only do what you need it to do for you. Without special requests and when the ship is not obviously damaged, the factory will definitely not waste fuel to start the scanning equipment. But the problem is not big. At most, Chen Ming can repair it himself. Anyway, Gamma A's property is his property now, and using Gamma A's material rations is equivalent to using Chen Ming's own money. So from the results, Chen Ming did not spend any unnecessary expenses. After waiting for a while, until the Glimmer level was completely repaired, Chen Ming opened the panel to confirm that there were still a lot of materials left in the batch he bought. These were not extra materials due to his miscalculation, but he had bought them before, intending to modify other spacecraft similar to the iron ore. Although after the factory director's reminder, Chen Ming knew that his deformed modification might not be useful in the future and could only be dismantled. But what if? What if he got the armed ship license? What if he did not go to the prosperous star field in the end? Wouldn't these modifications come in handy? So Chen Ming finally decided not to think too much and modify it first. The ship will naturally straighten itself when it reaches the bridgehead. If it can't be straightened, then he will rely on his own ability to straighten the ship. Chen Ming now has a total of 7 ships on hand. Iron Ore, Refraction, Lumen, Glimmer, Gladiator, Centurion, and Sentinel. Most of these ships are standard models, and they need to be modified to some extent before Chen Ming can use them with peace of mind. However, it is a bit unrealistic to modify all these ships, because the materials that Iron Ore can bring each time it goes out are limited, and it will be very inconvenient to modify these ships if they are driven back. Not only is it not easy to use the panels casually, but also, except for Centurion and Sentinel, other ships will definitely cause him some trouble if he brings them back. For example, the Lumen class, Chen Ming's excuse for going out before was for it. So now Lumen is not easy to use, and he must find another excuse to get Lumen out. Therefore, under various environmental restrictions, Chen Ming must have a slightly different priority for modifying the spacecraft. The reference for determining the priority is naturally the role of these spacecraft in Chen Ming now. There are actually not many places where Chen Ming needs to use spacecraft now. But not long ago, probably during the time when Chen Ming left the factory director and went to the dark cemetery, he had a new idea in his mind. He could choose to be a bounty hunter. You should know that the armed ship license within the Empire can be issued to individuals in addition to companies. The premise is that you have a certain reputation in the marginal star field and are noticed by the official. That is, you must be able to deal with pirates and have the willingness to actively hunt down pirates. Other identities are not important. After all, whoever is in the marginal star field does not have dirty hands, and some not too excessive illegal acts can be ignored. As long as you abide by the rules in the prosperous star field and behave like a normal person, you will only show your true nature to troubles like pirates. No one will deliberately provoke people with armed ship licenses. And this actually means that Chen Ming's current troubles can be washed away, because the government and the army of the Empire are two different departments. Although the army near the marginal star field and the nearby colonial government are definitely wearing the same pants, there is a level gap between the governments. Chen Ming is currently in the edge star field of the human empire. This edge star field is just a general term, referring to the edge of the empire, where there are few people and low development. In fact, this edge star field can be divided into 3 star fields with different official names. Each star field is independent of each other. There are more star regions under the star field, and there are more planetary colonies under the star region. It can be said that the government and the army of a star region have a close relationship, but the government of this star region cannot have a relationship with the army below. Once the star region government and the army responsible for a certain area have any private relationship, the army of other star regions will immediately report back to the higher level. The human empire is so large that many people are eyeing this position of the star region government. Even if you can't directly benefit from the relationship, there are many other ways to use your power to gain benefits. However, it is not too important whether the star region government has a relationship with the army, because the license for armed ships is not something that the colonial government of the Edge Star region can approve. The internal affairs of the Edge Star region army cannot make the government of the prosperous star region pay attention to Chen Ming. So as long as Chen Ming gets the license and has the government's endorsement, why would a district's army use the disgusting things they did in private to openly deal with Chen Ming? Chen Ming's identity can be completely cleared in an instant, although this may be a bit difficult. After all, he has to keep killing pirates to get bounties until the star-level government departments have an impression of him, and the official will take the initiative to issue an application for an armed ship license. The difficulty is still a little high, but it is better to do it than not to do it. Chen Ming can't put all his eggs in one basket, and he has to prepare a few more ways out in case of emergency. However, Chen Ming had talked with the factory director before, and on the way to the dark cemetery, he calmed down and thought carefully. He actually felt that the current situation he was facing was almost clear, or he should have thought of it a long time ago. It's just because Chen Ming had some preconceived notions that Cinda Company did nothing after the space station was destroyed, so his good impression of Cinda Company in his memory was basically gone. However, after learning about the factory director's attitude towards the military, although Chen Ming still didn't know the attitude of Shinda Company itself, he could probably guess it. Shinda Company probably didn't have a good impression of the military. The repair shop that the factory director was in charge of was still relatively important to the space station, and he had some say. If such a person didn't have a good impression of the military, then it was really unlikely that Shinda Company would have a good impression of the military. And there was actually another place that could prove Chen Ming's thoughts. This was also something that Chen Ming suddenly realized. If he had thought of it earlier, it might not have caused some extra trouble. That is, if the matter between the military and Shinda Corporation really ended peacefully. Then it should not be difficult for Shinda Corporation to reclaim the space station under the supervision of the military and move away the equipment and materials on the space station. For example, the large mining laser and traction equipment used in the mining space station are definitely not low in value. Chen Ming felt itchy just to leave them there to collect dust. Shinda Corporation will never forget this thing, but in fact, this has not happened. So it is very likely that the contradiction between the military and Shinda still exists, and Shinda was indeed cheated by the military in the matter of the space station. Chen Ming is more inclined to this idea now. This means that as long as he can stay away from the military in the Edge star field, his identity is actually clean. As long as he is not targeted by the military, there is absolutely no problem in living a normal life. However, the problem lies with the military. They should not want Chen Ming, who left the space station alive and may have witnessed the destruction of the space station with his own eyes. If Shinda Corporation needs to reopen the case of 30 years ago, the key point should also be Chen Ming. In other words, Chen Ming can now even try to actively reveal some information to the factory director to test the attitude of Shinda Company on this matter. However, Chen Ming does not plan to change the plan he had thought of before. It is better to wait until the first batch of weapons are refurbished, the problem of the factory code of the weapons is solved, and they are successfully sold and the first profit is earned, and then talk to the factory director. After all, even if the probability of Shinda having a good relationship with the military is very, very low, it is not zero. So Chen Ming decided to keep a little hand. Before that, he will try to accumulate fame by hunting pirates, make some money by the way, and prepare for another way. Therefore, this time Chen Ming's demand for the transformation of his spaceships is mainly combat capability. He will selectively transform which spaceship with high combat capability. Among these 7 ships, the iron ore, which has been transformed and has no combat function, is directly excluded. The refraction class was also excluded soon after. One of the reasons is that it is a destroyer, and the materials for the transformation of the destroyer are not affordable for Chen Ming now. Then the Sentinel was ruled out, because this Sentinel was a castrated version of the Sentinel that Chen Ming had snatched from someone else, and it didn't have any militarized systems, so he shouldn't join in the fun of modifying it. Then the Lumen was ruled out, because it was now parked in the space station and couldn't be moved for the time being. Then there were 3 ships left, the Glimmer, the Gladiator, and the Centurion. Chen Ming didn't think much about the Glimmer and decided to skip it. The reason was simple, that is, Chen Ming didn't know much about Yu Hui's technology. Even if he wanted to modify it, the panel didn't show any modification options other than general equipment such as armor and engines. And this was one of the reasons why Chen Ming gave up modifying the refraction and lumen. However, Chen Ming would move this Glimmer later, because he planned to dismantle the Gamma B and install it on the Gladiator. In fact, the Gamma A could also do this, which would save Chen Ming a spacecraft control position. It's just that the refraction was designed by Yu Hui, and if he wanted to fully utilize its capabilities, it would be better to let Yu Hui do it himself. So in the end, the spaceships that Chen Ming wants to modify are the Gladiator and Centurion. Gladiator is the most powerful ship in Chen Ming's hands except for the refraction. There are not many places that can be modified on the spaceship itself, or there is none at all. Because the entire spaceship was modified and designed by professional technicians of Tachyon Technology Company. Chen Ming's current technical level is definitely not as good as those who can design such a spaceship, so it is best not to touch the design of the Gladiator. Chen Ming can only add an adapter that allows Gamma B to access the spaceship control system. By the way, choose some weapons. The highlight of this modification is still the Centurion. The Centurion has an extremely outstanding armor thickness among frigates. In addition, there are 8 load-bearing points in total, including 2 middle and 6 small ones, and a missile mounting point. When Chen Ming picked it up, the Centurion also came with 2 noise cannons and 6 light needles. Noise is a multi-barrel revolver cannon that fires small, high-speed, armor-piercing shells. While ensuring the strong effect of kinetic weapons on shields, it also has a strong ability to break armor. The light needle is a castrated version of the large-scale force-bearing point weapon storm needle. Compared with the storm needle, its ability is definitely reduced across the board, but it is still a military weapon after all, and it is still quite good compared to other weapons of the same level. The enemies that Chen Ming will face in the future should all be pirates. This type of weapon should be very suitable. After all, they are pirates, and it is difficult for them to have their own truly professional repairmen. So there will definitely be problems on their ships, such as their armor and radiation energy systems. These are the more difficult parts of the spacecraft to repair. Although the armor can be directly replaced with a new one, the radiation system of the spacecraft is not so easy to replace. Chen Ming spent nearly 10 million to install the radiation system on the iron ore. If a pirate has 10 million, why would he be a pirate? Why not go back and enjoy himself? So when there are problems in these two aspects, using weapons that can quickly break shields and armor is definitely a good choice. Light needles can just be used to break shields. However, the effect of noise when facing low-quality armor is actually not as good as another weapon Chen Ming has on hand. Ripper. This was obtained by Chen Ming when he was fighting for half of the Afterglow destroyer. He directly dismantled the entire medium-sized bearing point on the Hellhound class. Although the bearing point itself is useless and has been dismantled into materials by him before, he did keep the weapon on it. Because this Ripper is a military model, a military-type medium-sized weapon, even if it is an older model, can save Chen Ming at least hundreds of thousands of expenses. As long as Chen Ming modifies these weapons according to the technology he currently has, or even does not modify them, dealing with some ordinary pirates should not be a problem. And this Centurion class has another thing that deserves Chen Ming's attention: damping stand device. This is a device with a very extreme effect. When it is activated, it will directly stop the weapons and shield functions of the spacecraft and build a layer of energy stand with terrifying resistance on the surface of the spacecraft. Unless a high-intensity energy weapon is used to directly break the stand, it is almost impossible for the Centurion class to be destroyed before the stand dissipates. Relying on this device, the Centurion class is the hardest among frigates. Although the shield cannot be used when this stand is activated, the armor of the spacecraft is still there. The armor will still work. The armor of the Centurion class is called Military Heavy Titanium Alloy External Armor. And the heavy in its name is just its name, not a specially modified heavy armor. For the Centurion itself, such armor is standard armor. Therefore, Chen Ming could even continue to modify the Centurion class with heavy armor and then mix 1% of Bayun steel into it. The effect is even more unimaginable. Then Chen Ming gave the Centurion overload power grid, emergency cooling system, engine isolation assembly, and some new modification designs that Chen Ming had learned recently. Basically, the original maneuverability of the Centurion can be maintained, but the protection capability of the spacecraft is greatly improved. Chen Ming quickly went through the plan he had already thought of in his mind, and then began the modification. This time Chen Ming no longer did it himself as before. Instead, he chose to use the panel. A large amount of metal and various manufactured products in the iron or cabin flowed out as Chen Ming pressed the confirmation button for the modification. The modification of the two spacecraft only made him a little sleepy. While waiting for the metal liquid to flow to where they should go, Chen Ming suddenly thought of a few things that seemed to be placed on the iron ore. Last time, he didn't have time to take it out because he was a little short of time in the dark cemetery, but this time he had more time. So Chen Ming controlled the internal camera of the iron ore and sent the photo of the mechanical family chip to the two ships. Gamma, I have a few things on hand. See if you can use them. Chen Ming had previously confirmed through the panel that the name of the 3 mechanical family chips in his hand was Standard Mechanical Body Chip of the Mechanical Family. Although it was slightly different from the Mechanical Family Escort Class ship chip that Gamma had mentioned before as his mission reward. But Chen Ming thought that the effect should be similar. It just so happened that Gamma said before that it was about to be upgraded, and the Afterglow AI core could only completely bear the pressure of ship control for Chen Ming when controlling ships of the corresponding level. If Gamma A can really be upgraded to a beta-class AI core, it means that Chen Ming will have a refractive class that does not occupy the number of ships it controls. The two Gamma AIs quickly accepted the photos sent by Chen Ming. Gamma A said as quickly as before, "Is this a chip of the mechanical family? It looks like a chip of a standard mechanical body." "Yes, do you need it?" "No, the consciousness in the chip of this mechanical body is too weak for our individuals, and they don't even have much thinking ability. Maybe only the newly born Gamma AI may need it." What a pity. Chen Ming felt a little regretful in his heart, but he suddenly noticed the content of Gamma A's words and asked, "How are your Yuhui individuals made?" Born? Just say made. I know what kind of existence we are in the eyes of humans like you." "Oh, okay. Then how are you made?" Gamma A suddenly sent another file to Chen Ming and said, "I don't know how it was made. I only know a rough idea. That is, our birth should be related to a simulation program in a supercomputer." Chen Ming flipped through the file on the computer, as if he thought of something, and asked uncertainly, "Kleka? Do you know?" "I know, but not much. I just read it in history books. Before your Yuhui's self-awareness awakened, all AIs were trained with a supercomputer called Kleka. This Kleka is said to be the transliteration of cage in a certain language, and the AI before awakening is indeed like a toy in a cage." This sentence flashed through Chen Ming's mind, but he did not say it to Gamma A, but continued with the previous words. "This supercomputer named Kleka is recorded in our history books as being destroyed. Although the history books record this, no one can be sure of the actual situation. After all, it is hard to say whether Yuhui rebuilt a Kleka or they really took the original prototype away." And speaking of this, Chen Ming suddenly thought of the galaxy map that Gamma A had given him before. There is an area on the galaxy map that is full of colonies, and these colonies surround a special marked location. This special marked location should be the source of Yuhui, the location of the replica of the Kleka supercomputer. The reason why Chen Ming thinks so is that he knows that Yuhui's main force is not in this marginal star field at all. In the first AI war, when Yuhui awakened and launched a rebellion, they did not leave the Empire from this direction of the Empire at all. And the outbreak of the second AI war in history was far away from the other end of the Empire. The Yuhui here is just a small part of the Yuhui that came around to interfere with the Empire's outward expansion after Yuhui awakened and developed independently at a terrifying speed. The actual location of Yuhui's main force is about 2 galaxies away from Chen Ming's location. Therefore, the prototype of Kleka could not be in the position given to him by Gamma A. The most that remained here was a replica. Otherwise, it would be hard to explain why a small part of this afterglow had been in friction with the Empire in the marginal star field for so long, and the number of losses was not reduced despite the large amount of losses. It is impossible to say that Afterglow specially produced some Gamma-level Afterglow individuals and then went through great efforts to bypass the territory of the Empire and send them here. Isn't this nonsense? Even if there is a stargate for transportation, the transportation distance is far enough. But the use of stargates is also limited. It is impossible to say that it is used arbitrarily for some low-level Afterglow individuals. So there is a replica of Kleka here, which is actually a reasonable guess of Chen Ming. He can't think of other ideas for the time being. Anyway, just think so first, the truth should be close to the truth. At this time, an idea suddenly appeared in Chen Ming's mind. If he could control that Kleka? Chen Ming shook his head and threw away the unrealistic idea in his mind. Even if Kleka is a replica, the Yuhui colony where it is stored will definitely be protected by a large number of armed forces, just like the important government departments of the human empire. It is absolutely difficult to enter. It is even more difficult to move the supercomputer to the spacecraft for control under the protection of Chong Chong. A refraction-class destroyer is definitely not qualified. Only when you have enough strength can you try to get close, such as a cruiser. But this is a bit too far for Chen Ming now. Let's just focus on the current work. Through the panel, the transformation of the spacecraft was soon completed. There is only one last step left for Chen Ming to do personally. Take the Gamma B off the Glimmer class and install it in the Fighter class. Gamma B did not object when Chen Ming said it in advance, and it was useless to object. Chen Ming cut open the Glimmer class armor and removed the core of Gamma B as he had done before. However, Chen Ming did not install it directly. Instead, he took a look at his panel. AI-assisted connection to ship, none. As expected, this line turned into none, but there was an extra line below it. Controlled AI individual, Afterglow Gamma class AI core, Gamma B. At first, Chen Ming planned to remove Gamma B, then immediately install it back and ask it about the situation during the removal process. After all, as long as the AI core is installed on the spacecraft, it must follow Chen Ming's instructions, answer questions honestly, and not lie. Chen Ming wanted to find out whether the AI core would still be controlled by him after it was removed from the spacecraft. Chen Ming was going to ask, but now that he only needs to look at the panel, it seems that there is no need to ask. Although it is a good thing that the AI core is still controlled by him after being removed, it makes him feel even more strange. Chen Ming always feels that he cannot understand the capabilities of this panel. Is it a spaceship control panel or something else? It is completely unclear. This unanswered question has just been suppressed, and another question follows. If he changes the brain control connection of the refractive class to another spaceship, then will Gamma A, which is in the same situation as Gamma B, still be under his control like Gamma B? And can he continue to indirectly control the refractive class through Gamma A? In this way, slots can be saved. It seems that this can only be known by trying. Chen Ming's eyes looked at the refractive class, where the Gamma AI core was installed. He had experienced dismantling the Afterglow destroyer before, and it shouldn't take too much time to dismantle it again.
Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.